Let's turn to oil and gas. Ghana's oil production is expected to peak in 2027 at over 297,000 barrels of oil a day. The latest report by Fitch Solutions, a research arm of ratings agency Fitch, gives us some more insight.
What if I told you that Ghana, once dismissed as just another small oil player, is now positioning itself as one of Africa's most strategic hubs for energy and investment? For years, headlines about Ghana's oil sector have carried a shadow of doubt. Stories of stalled projects, fluctuating global prices, and foreign investors hesitating at the door. But behind those headlines lies a story that is rarely told. A story of a country that refuses to remain dependent. A nation that is laying the foundation for oil to serve its people, and not just foreign corporations. Ghana's oil journey began with a promise. When the Jubilee field was discovered in 2007, hopes ran high that this would be the moment Africa's black star would shine even brighter. Production officially kicked off in 2010, and by then, expectations were sky high. But as the years unfolded, Ghana faced the same challenges many resource-rich African nations know too well. Price shocks, contract disputes, and the imbalance between what foreign investors gain and what the local economy actually receives. Yet, unlike others, Ghana chose not to sit still. Today, in 2025, Accra is actively reshaping the rules of engagement. The government is rewriting policies to make sure that local participation is not just a slogan, but a measurable reality. New laws are strengthening the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, ensuring it holds greater stakes in future oil ventures. More of the revenue is being channeled into infrastructure, education, and renewable energy research. This is not just an oil story, it is a sovereignty story. And investors are noticing. Despite the global race toward renewable energy, oil is still a critical pillar of world demand. In fact, major companies from Europe, the Middle East, and even Asia are re-engaging with Ghana because of the country's stable democracy, improving regulatory clarity, and the clear message from government. We are open for business, but on fair terms. Let's be honest, foreign investors often come to Africa with one goal: to take as much as possible while giving back as little as they can. This is why Ghana's new strategy matters. The country is no longer begging investors to come. Instead, it is positioning itself as a partner. That's a shift in power dynamics that Pan-Africans should celebrate. Because what Ghana is doing is rewriting the colonial playbook of extraction and replacing it with a model of shared growth. In 2025, Ghana is not just relying on oil exports. The revenues are fueling ambitious infrastructure projects like new highways, expanded ports, and technology training hubs for the youth. The vision is clear. Oil wealth should not become a curse, but rather a stepping stone toward industrialization and a diversified economy. This matters far beyond Ghana. For decades, Africa has been trapped in cycles where natural resources only benefit outsiders. But here is an example of a country saying, enough. By demanding transparency in contracts, insisting on local job creation, and planning for a post-oil future, Ghana is sending a message to the entire continent. We can take control of our resources and still attract investment. Of course, challenges remain. Global investors still watch Ghana closely, waiting to see if political stability will hold and if corruption can truly be kept at bay. But in a world where African nations are often judged by their weakest links, Ghana's oil industry is proving that reform and resilience are possible. This is not just about barrels of oil. It's about dignity. It's about a country taking charge of its destiny and refusing to let foreign investors dictate every term. The question, can Ghana's oil industry win over foreign investors, almost feels incomplete. Because the real question might be, can foreign investors win over Ghana? When you look at Ghana today, it becomes clear that the oil industry is no longer just about foreign corporations drilling in offshore fields. It's about how the revenues are being tied to Ghana's long-term vision. Roads are being built, schools are being expanded, and there's a growing focus on technical training for the next generation. This is the part many international observers miss. Oil is not an end in itself, but a bridge. The government's strategy of balancing oil with renewable energy projects is particularly striking. While critics claim that oil has no future in a carbon-conscious world, Ghana is proving them wrong. Instead of abandoning oil, the country is using its revenues to prepare for the energy transition. Solar farms are being expanded in the north, hydro projects are being modernized, and private companies are being encouraged to invest in wind technology. In other words, Ghana's oil wealth is being turned into a down payment on a cleaner and more diversified future. For Pan-Africans, this is a crucial lesson. Too often, resource wealth has been treated as a curse, something that leads to corruption, inequality, and foreign control. But Ghana is working to show another path, one where local expertise grows, where contracts are fair, and where the country's democracy creates the stability needed for long-term investment. It's not about being perfect, it's about being deliberate. And here is where the story connects to Africa's wider struggle. Across the continent, nations are asking themselves the same question. How do we keep control of our resources while still attracting outside money and technology? Ghana's example, standing firm on local content laws, insisting on revenue sharing and diversifying beyond oil, offers a roadmap. It says to the rest of Africa, you don't have to sell out to grow. Foreign investors, on their part, are beginning to adapt. They know that the days of one-sided contracts are slowly coming to an end. They see Ghana's political stability as a rare advantage in a region where coups and unrest have scared away capital. They see the country's youthful population as a future workforce and consumer market. Most importantly, they see that Ghana is determined to avoid the resource curse that has trapped so many others. But this is also where the challenge lies. Investors will continue to push for terms that favor them. They will use the media to paint Africa as unstable, risky, and corrupt, because that narrative helps them bargain for cheaper deals. This is why Pan-Africans must stand behind Ghana. Supporting Ghana's oil industry doesn't mean blindly cheering every policy. It means recognizing that this is one of the few African nations actively reshaping its relationship with foreign capital. If Ghana succeeds, it will not only strengthen its own economy, but also inspire others. Imagine a continent where African nations negotiate with strength, not desperation. Where oil and gas revenues don't disappear into offshore accounts, but are reinvested in roads, hospitals, and innovation. That is what Ghana is fighting for, and that is why this moment matters. So, can Ghana's oil industry win over foreign investors? Yes, it can, but on Ghana's terms, not theirs. And that is the real victory. Because at the end of the day, this is bigger than oil. It is about dignity, sovereignty, and the belief that Africa can write its own story without waiting for approval from Washington, London, or Beijing. Ghana is showing that with vision, discipline, and courage, an African nation can sit at the table of global investment and not just survive, but lead. If you believe in this journey, drop your thoughts in the comments. Support the work by liking this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more powerful stories from Africa.